time I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of March 11th, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Spagno, please call the roll.
Allen.
Here.
Dixon.
Here.
Gibbons. Hannon. Present. Harrison.
Present.
McLean.
Here.
Mowry. O'Brien.
Present.
Pape.
Here.
7 present.
We have 7 members present. At this time, we can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no chair announcements this evening, so if we can turn to the reports of the officials, and I don't believe the library director is here, so if we can turn to the police chief's report. Chief Mackey.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Good evening, everyone. I have a couple reminders this evening. The first is the next Crime Watch meeting will be Monday, March 18th at 6:30. Of course, that'll be held at the Community Center. And if there's anybody out there that would like to sign up for Crime Watch, would love to have you. Please join the 1,000 plus other Bethel Park residents who have signed up for Crime Watch. They're doing some really good things, and we've had a number of success stories with Crime Watch members calling in tips and other information to the police that leads to either arrest or solving some crime. So we would love to have you join Crime Watch. You don't have to be a member to attend the meeting, so if you'd like to just come and find out what it's all about, please do so. Once again, March 18th, 6:30 at the Community Center. The second item is our annual Drug Enforcement Take-Back Program, and that's going to be on Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That will also be at the Community Center. If you have any unwanted expired medications in pill form, you can bring them to the drop-off, and we will make sure that those drugs get safely disposed of. Once again, we do not accept liquid medications, and we do not accept needles. I just got this item today. I know it's really last minute and late notice, but several weeks ago, Sergeant Ralph Miller from the Baldwin Police Department was shot when he responded to a call. He has a couple surgeries coming up, and they are having a blood drive tomorrow, and that will be at the Baldwin Municipal Building, 3344 Churchview Avenue, and the blood drive is from noon until 6 p.m. That is tomorrow. Like I said, I apologize, but I just got that information today. On Friday evening, we had our annual Police Pals Pittsburgh Steelers basketball game. We had over 650 people in attendance, and we raised over $7,000 for the Charles Bonzak Scholarship Program. So that was a really good turnout. I'd like to thank all the sponsors who donated gifts. Actually, most of the money that we raised came from the donations and the raffles that we were able to put on Friday night. I do have 2 of the winners. One was the Steelers Grill, and that went to Ken Caraco of Bethel Park. The 50-50 winner was Mike Ack, and Mr. Ack donated $100 back to the program, so we would like to thank him for that. Also, since the fire chief's here, I'd like to thank the fire department for once again participating. Prior to the Police Pals game, we have a police versus firemen basketball game, and it was a really good game this year. It went nip and tuck all the way down to the very end before. Okay, here's where I brag. The police finally pulled ahead a little bit, and so our record is 2-0. I know the fire department practiced real hard this year, and I expect an even tougher game next year, but we had a lot of fun, and I know they did too, and we really look forward to that. So, and the final item I had was on Friday, March 8th. I had an opportunity, along with Mayor Morton, to represent Bethel Park at the grand opening of the Target store over at South Hills Village. And I can't remember if I had announced this at a prior meeting, but on that evening I was presented with a check from the Target Corporation for $2,000, and that was a donation for our child identification program. We literally do thousands of child IDs each year in Bethel Park, and as you can imagine, we go through a lot of supplies. So the grant that we receive from Target will go to replenish all the supplies for the child ID program, and I've already been informed by Target that we are eligible to reapply for another grant, and I look forward to doing that in the near future. But it was very nice of them, number one, to invite us. It was even nicer to receive a check, but I think they're going to be real good neighbors and real good for not only Upper St. Clair, but for the Bethel Park community. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Chief Mackey. This time we can turn to the fire chief's report.
Good evening. My name is Tom Kelton. I am the 3rd Lieutenant for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. Just want to briefly go over our calls for last month. We had a wide range of different calls going on last month. Start off, we had 4 odors of natural gas, 10 CO alarms, 2 odors of smoke, 1 cooking accident, 1 gasoline leak, 2 wires down, 8 fire alarms, 1 smoke investigation, 1 vehicle into a building, 1 structure fire into South Park, and 1 elevator rescue for a total of 32 calls last month. It was a busy month. I'd like to remind everybody, we changed the clocks over the weekend. Please change your batteries in both your CO alarms and your smoke alarms. Do this twice a year. Every time you change your clocks, change your batteries also. In between, you should also be testing them every month as well. There's a button on every one of those devices. Press the button, it should beep a couple times and reset itself. Over the week, I believe last week or the week before, we had our first town hall meeting to talk about the upcoming tax referendum going on the ballot there. If you'd like to view that, you weren't able to make it, please check out our Facebook page. We have links on there so you can view it on the computer. And also, our Facebook page has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, including our next town hall meeting, which will be April 18th, down at the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Station on Brightwood Road. Anybody have any questions? Comments? And that'll be it.
Thank you very much. If we can turn to the mayor's report and Mayor Morton.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you out. I only have a couple of items tonight. First of all, let me comment on the chief's comments about us being over to the Target opening. And I had to laugh because Chief Pardini from Upper St. Clair was there looking around for his check, but it never showed up. So we had some fun with that. We have a young scout visiting us tonight, so if anybody gets...
228.
228, thank you. 228, is he right? All right. He may have some questions, so you fellows can answer them for him later on. As you know, every month we recognize people who are 90 years old or older for their birthdays. We do this monthly. And tonight, we're going to say happy birthday to Mary Lampo and Betty Jean McMinn. They are 91 years old. Antoinette Sefcik and Robert Johnson. Happy birthday to them. They are 92. Margaret Musial is 93. Lily Nutter is 94 this year. Steve Ursini, a name that many of us remember because Steve worked for the borough a number of years, is 95 this month. And John Campbell has turned 98. Happy birthday to him. And Dolores Lang is 101 years old this year. So, think you'll get there someday? Never know, do you? Well, we hope you do. Happy birthday to all these folks, and that's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor Morton. At this time, if we could turn to the approval of the minutes, and Mr. Hannon.
The first one's the regular meeting of February 11, 2013. Move that we approve the regular council meeting minutes of February 11th, 2013.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the regular council meeting minutes of February 11th, 2013. Mr. Spagnola, please call the roll.
Dixon. Yes. Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape. Allen.
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. If we can now turn to the bills and payrolls. And Mr. Hannon.
Move that we approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 031113 in the amount of $1,113,219.88.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bills and payrolls for the municipality per bill list number 031113 in the amount of $1,113,219.88. Any comments on this? Mr. Spagnola, please call the roll.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Dixon. Yes. 7-0. Passed.
Motion passes 7-0. At this time, if we can turn to the residents' comments. If any resident would like to speak, they have 3 minutes, and we'll let you know after 2 minutes. These are for non-agenda items only. Just state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Ron Arnone. I live at Hilltop Lane. Council, mayor, administrators, just a couple of comments. So often, people come up here and want to complain. Well, this evening, I'd like to commend council for a number of things. Specifically, the reason I'm here is that working with Council President Tim Mowry and some other members of council through the development that's going to be Millennium Woods, the residents of Hilltop Lane want to thank you for allowing a pathway to go through from Hilltop Lane, a walking path to go through to Millennium Park. It's something that, you know, it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it is to a lot of the folks that live over there. So I want to thank you all for making that happen. And I see the developer is here in the audience, and I know they have an excellent reputation, and we're looking forward to having a good neighbor and an excellent development. So that being said, I want to also thank the mayor for his great service and the work he does on behalf of the municipality. You've been a great representative of Bethel Park. And I want to commend you personally. Also, all the members of council and the staff. Again, so often everybody wants to complain or have bad comments about public officials, but we have some excellent council people up here, and we should be thankful for the hard work that you folks do on behalf of the municipality, including the staff and the manager. You guys, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be a Bethel Park resident, and keep up the good work, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Dick Kraft, 102 Highland Road. I come tonight to speak in favor of the referendum coming up in May to support our fire company. I'm not a great believer in tax increases myself, but sometimes they become necessary, and this certainly is a time for that. Over the past 5 years, I've had 4 floods in front of my house, water breaks on Highland Road, and the firemen were the first responders. They weren't always successful keeping water on my government, but on 2 occasions they did. So I invite all you residents in Bethel to support the referendum coming up in May, and it's well deserved. The old saying was that you come to our bingo, we'll come to your fire. That doesn't apply anymore. And as they said before, they reported last month that only 50% of the businesses in Bethel Park support the fire company. It was hard to believe that. And I was sort of ashamed to know that, because I'm sure those businesses couldn't open their doors without having fire insurance. But when a fire starts, they're looking for the firemen to come and bail them out. You know, I mean, take a look at, say, South Park at the shopping centers. If Panera Bread got a fire in their kitchen, that whole thing could go without their fire company. So that's what I have to say. But if those folks who oppose this thing, I suggest they stop at the fire company and volunteer. I'm sure the guys can find something for them to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Just let me say that from a business standpoint, the fire company actually gets less than 10% from the businesses, which is, I mean, they would be happy to get 50%, I'm sure. Yeah. Any other comments from residents? Hearing none, if we can turn to general policy and finance, and Mr. Hannon.
First item in our general policy and finance is the pension investment policy statement changes. I move that we adopt upon the recommendation of the pension committees of the Bethel Park Police and non-police pension plans the revised investment policy statements effective April 1st, 2013, and hereby authorize the municipal manager and the pension council to take such actions as are necessary to effectuate this motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt upon recommendation of the Pension Committee of Bethel Park Police and non-police pension plans the revised investment policy statement effective April 1st, 2013, and hereby authorize the municipal manager and pension council to take actions as necessary to effectuate this motion. Do we have any comments on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Spagnuolo, please call the roll.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Hannon.
Next item is the ordinance amendment to ordinance 3-12-12A, real estate tax rate for the fiscal year 2013. I move that we amend ordinance 3-12-12A to adjust the real estate tax rate from 2.43 mils to 1.98 mils for fiscal year 2013.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend ordinance 3-12-12A to adjust the real estate tax rate from 2.43 mils to 1.98 mils for fiscal year 2013. At this time, if I could turn to our finance director, Mr. Villela, to explain exactly what this is.
Thank you, Jack. Based on the most recent valuation reassessment report from the Allegheny County, this actually is going to help us keep everything revenue neutral for the 2013 year, which is good news, I think, on behalf of the municipality. So, for example, if your house was valued at $100,000 and you were paying roughly $243 per year, you would be now paying $198. So it's a $45 reduction. So, which looks good for the area here.
Thank you. Any comments from council? Hearing none, Mr. Spagnuolo, please call the roll.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
7-0 passed.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Hannon.
Next item is an appointment to the zoning hearing board, alternate number 2. I move that we appoint Brandon T. Colella to the zoning hearing board as an alternate member for a term to expire on December 31st, 2015.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the appointment of Brandon T. Colella to the zoning hearing board as an alternate member for the term to expire on December 31st, 2015. Any comments on this item? Hearing none, Mr. Spagnuolo, please call the roll.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
7-0 passed.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Hannon.
We have no further agenda items on our general policy and finance, Mr. President.
Any other items?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harrison.
I've been stewing all month over the disturbing action of this council and our legal arm at the February 11th meeting. So I prepared a presentation, which I will make at this time. And I want to start out by telling people that all the quotes in this presentation are a matter of public record. They are contained in the minutes of the February 11th council meeting and correspondence on the issue since that time. As the fire company knows, you folks know, and I've said many times, I support a dedicated tax for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. A simple ordinance instead of a home rule charter change would accomplish the goal. Either method is subject to future change, but in either case, the public would have a chance to vote on any change. The Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company held a public meeting on March the 7th that was videotaped. The company stated it intends to present that on the local TV channel. I encourage everybody to watch that presentation and ask that you particularly note the planned schedule for the demolition of the present Brightwood station and the erection of the new station that is planned for next year. You will note that council could have enacted an ordinance in February that would have specified a ballot question in November that would be consistent with the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company schedule and maintain the integrity of the Home Rule Charter. That's my main concern. Finally, I note you will surely be subjected to a lot of derogatory chatter from this dais after I speak, and you simply have to decide who you want to believe. I'm going to speak to the Bethel Park residents tonight and question whether they should be concerned about the decorum and actions of their governing body. I claim we have a dysfunctional local government that has done a gross disservice to the community. On February the 11th, I suggested that council members are cowards for pursuing a home rule charter change to fund the needed replacement for the present fire station, rather than pursuing a straightforward ordinance. Either method requires a bond issue. The Home Rule Charter Avenue would delay a vote on a tax increase until after the 2013 general election in November, if the vote was performed in accordance with the Home Rule Charter. At that time, I could not have imagined that the Home Rule Charter would be trashed so that the vote would be moved up to the May primary vote. The ordinance approach would have likely implied a vote for a tax increase very soon. The Home Rule Charter approach would delay a vote on the tax increase until after the November election, at which time 5 of the seats up here are up for election. If the Home Rule Charter Avenue is used and the vote is affirmative, council would then say that the tax is increased and mandated by the voters rather than council biting the bullet now and being subjected to voting for a tax increase before the election. I admit that I could have used a more genteel word to make my point. Several members of council commented that they are not cowards just because of their position they took on the funding issue. Mr. Hannon spoke to the issue and suggested that an apology by me is in order. Then Mr. Murray spoke. Mr. Murray said, quote, Mr. Harrison brought up the fact that he was going to start a petition. A petition Mr. Murray is alluding to is allowed by the Home Rule Charter, Section 1201. To initiate a petition, any 5 qualified electors of the municipality must file with the municipal manager a notarized affidavit stating that they will constitute the petitioner's committee. This option has been exercised twice in the history of the Bethel Park Home Rule Charter. I did not make the statement that I was going to start a petition. I have never been a member of a petition committee, and I have no future plans to be a member of a petition committee. Mr. Murray, as the president of council, is the chief spokesman for this governing body. One would hope that because of his position, he would check facts and not spew out unfounded innuendos. After stating I intend to start a petition, Mr. Murray stated, these people are evil. I know that Mr. Hannon did not suggest that Mr. Murray issue an apology after he stated people are evil for legally petitioning their government body as allowed in the Home Rule Charter. Now to the issue at hand of providing support for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. My point was made in a letter that I wrote and was published in the Almanac. Why use an axe to do a job when a scalpel will do? It was suggested to change the Home Rule Charter, which I consider the Constitution of the Bethel Park, is like using an axe rather than funding the building replacement with an ordinance. The ordinance and bond issue funding method has been used for the expansion of the municipal building, the one we're in right now, the construction of the community center, and the funding of the municipal authority. The ordinance approach suggested, I claim this is scalpel approach. Note the news article in the Almanac dated February 27th entitled Bethel Considers Plant Upgrade. The article addresses the council plan bond issue to fund necessary sewer system upgrades. Council's expected to act on this very soon. As a matter of fact, before we came out, they said we're ready to authorize preparing the paperwork. On February 11th, the night of the last monthly meeting of council, I was aware at that time of the fact that February 19th was the final date for submitting a request to the Election Bureau for placing a question on the May 21st ballot. I was also aware of Section 1107 of the Home Rule Charter that states that the effective date of an ordinance shall be no sooner than 30 days after it is adopted by council. Therefore, I questioned Mr. McTiernan about the actions relative to the ordinance that was passed by council. They requested that the question be placed on the May 21st primary ballot. He indicated that he planned to submit the ordinance to the Election Bureau in a couple of days. Mr. McTiernan was reminded of the 30-day criterion of Section 1107 of the Home Rule Charter that states that an ordinance is not effective until 30 days after its enactment by this governing body. Mr. McTiernan opined at that time, in part, that he would do some additional research, but his initial reaction is you can't trump law with local ordinances or even the Home Rule Charter. The ordinance enacted to place the question on the May ballot was signed that night on February the 11th. Nothing wrong with that. It's not common, but the request by Mr. McTiernan to place the question on the ballot was hand-delivered to the Election Bureau on February the 13th, citing the ineffective February 11th ordinance as the basis for the request. This action took place 2 days after the adoption of the ordinance and 28 days before the ordinance became effective in accordance with Section 1107 of the Home Rule Charter. Timely action by council in passing the enabling ordinance would have avoided the Home Rule Charter crisis. I consider it a crisis. Council could have passed the ordinance in January and met the criterion of Section 1107 of the Home Rule Charter if they insisted on having the vote on the ballot in May. They could have indicated a November vote in the ordinance that would be consistent with the Home Rule Charter and the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company schedule for demolition of the present building and erection of the new building. The hasty action by council and Mr. McTiernan makes it clear to me that the municipal staff, the council, and Mr. McTiernan didn't do their homework and were antsy about the actions they may be, the actions that they were employing. Mr. Morey stated in part, quote, I was one of the members of council that got involved almost 3 years ago. Mr. Morey was speaking of his environment and discussion, his involvement with discussion with the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company about funding the new Bethel Park Fire Company facility. I am embarrassed in behalf of this governing body, in which it is stated they have been involved in the pursuit of this item for 3 years, and yet were so inept in enacting the enabling legislation that it violated the well-known provisions of the Home Rule Charter. Is not acting on the enabling legislation for the ballot in a timely basis a sign of ineptness? Now, a few words about the Home Rule Charter. The Home Rule Charter was purposely written in layman's terms and not in commonly misunderstood lawyer legalese. Before the Home Rule Charter was submitted to the public, it was reviewed and approved by the Municipal Legal Counsel. Unlike the discussion of the framers of the Second Amendment of the Federal Constitution relative to guns, the intent of the Home Rule Charter, Section 1107, relative to the effective date of the ordinance, is well known. I was a member of the Home Rule Charter and wrote Section 1107. The section was provided in the Home Rule Charter in response to my awareness as a councilman of previous actions of council on items the public had no foreknowledge and the public had no way to readily challenge the council approval. In a letter by Mr. McTiernan dated February 25 on the ordinance, he stated in part, the concept of effective date is inapplicable to an initiating ordinance. Inapplicable to an initiating ordinance. To my understanding of the time I've been here, the ordinance acted on by council or initiated by municipal staff or the solicitor at the direction of the council. Certainly the distinction of an initiating ordinance by Mr. McTiernan is obscure to me and the general public and has a tint of loyal legalese concocted with the hope that it will not be challenged. In my backwoods upbringing in the rural area of the state of Indiana, such actions were referred to as acting like a Philadelphia lawyer. At that time, that statement was intended to be negative relative to the legal profession. I claim the action on the February of the ordinance trashes the concept of the Home Rule Charter, and as I mentioned before, I consider it the constitution of the municipality. Mr. McTiernan was not finished. He just did away with saying that the ordinance doesn't become effective in accordance with the Home Rule Charter. Was not finished in voiding stipulations of the Home Rule Charter. In addition, in his February 25th letter, he also says, in part, another issue concerns the ability to use the initiative procedures of the Home Rule Charter to repeal the ordinance. Pennsylvania does not allow this type of suspension. The position of Mr. McTiernan voided the stipulation of the Home Rule Charter contained in Section 1201, allowing for public initiative action. What next? What next relative to trashing the Home Rule Charter? The Home Rule Charter has stood the test of time since it became effective on January the 2nd, 1978. Now, because of apparent inactiveness of council and its professional and legal staff, we are counseled to ignore the known intent of the Home Rule Charter language. Mr. Murray stated, there was a time once in my tenure on council we put a question on the ballot and it failed. If the Home Rule Charter question passes, a delay of some number of months will occur prior to the money being available. If the ordinance approach is used to provide the money for the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company, money could be available in a very short time. If the Home Rule Charter question fails to get approval of the voters, what then? Council has the responsibility at this time to inform the public of what action council will take if the Home Rule Charter question passes. Also, council has the responsibility at this time to inform the public of what action will take if it fails. I have not been provided with sufficient information to answer these questions presented to me by the public. But clearly, we need to ensure the continued viability of the excellent volunteer fire company, and always emphasize the word volunteer. Surely we will not abandon them. There's another item to be considered. The proposed 0.34 mil real estate tax to be included in the Home Rule Charter is touted to provide funding for the Bethel Park Fire Company for a new Brightwood Road building and continuing funding for the operational costs of the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company. These are two distinct items. The Brightwood Road building demolition and erection are a one-time cost. What is the plan relative to the fixed taxing rate in the Home Rule Charter once the building cost is retired? Council has the responsibility at this time to inform the public of what action Council has planned for the taxing rate once the building portion of the tax increase is retired. I'll just mention an unexpected result of the discussion of this issue has generated unexpected support for me from people in that saying that I am needed on council to continue to present the interests of the public and keep them informed. The plea is, don't abandon us, and I just want to take the opportunity to tell them I won't abandon them. Finally, a request to rescind the question on the May ballot and place the question on the November ballot would accomplish several things. It would accommodate the Bethel Park Volunteer Fire Company schedule based on their presentation last Thursday. It would save face for our governing body that did not do the homework and scheduled to vote on the ordinance in a time to make it in such a fashion to make it inconsistent with the Home Rule Charter, and it would not result in trashing the Home Rule Charter that has survived since 1976. So I would suggest maybe Council wants to ask Mr. McTiernan to consider rescinding his request to the Election Bureau and let Council enact an ordinance that would be consistent with the Home Rule Charter. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien.
First of all, I'd like to welcome Mr. Pate back. It's nice to have you back, Johnny. Glad to see you're in good spirits and good health. I'm going to borrow one of Mr. Pape's sayings. Mr. Harrison, you seem to have this distinct ability, no matter what you touch, you pull it under the bus, and you roll the bus over top of it, no matter what it is, no matter how good the intentions are, you seem to do that. And I'm going to borrow one of Mr. Pape's famous lines, Don, go tell it to the Indians. It's just absolutely amazing to you. We've decided, we're moving forward, it's in place, and you're just pulling it under the bus and rolling over the top. You just never seem to amaze me, no matter what it is. Recreation. I don't even want to go through the list. Now it's the fire department. Just go tell it to the Indians, Don. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Any other comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Dixon.
I was fully expecting that we would have to take a quiz on the Home Rule Charter following that lesson we just received. But I just wanted to clarify something. If we had done, as Mr. Harrison suggests, and just passed an ordinance increasing taxes to pay for this, that line item could have come off the budget in a year. That wouldn't, it may or may not survive the following year's budget. You don't know, and you certainly don't have a dedicated source of funding for the fire department. Absent that dedicated source of funding, there's no way they would ever be able to borrow the money to build that building. You have to have a dedicated source of funding. Having said that, what better way to make a decision on a sea change such as this, a totally volunteer fire company throughout its history is now requesting assistance from the municipal government. That's a sea change in the way things have been done. I think that this should be put to the people of this community to make that decision. We didn't decide to raise taxes here. We decided to ask the residents of Bethel Park if they want to raise taxes and provide that dedicated source of funding to the fire department. That's all we did. And I think that was the right decision to make, and I'll stand by that. Insofar as Mr. Harrison's assaults on Mr. Mowry in absentia. I think Mr. Mowry can take care of himself, but I, for one, would stand by Mr. Mowry any time in this debate, and frankly, in any other debate when we have these issues. So I just wanted to clarify that for the people of this community. This is not a tax increase. This is a question that you get to answer yourselves as to whether or not we should change the way we provide fire service to this community. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. O'Brien.
I'd just like to say, too, I've served with Mr. McTiernan, has to be almost 20 years now, Bob. Sometimes we like Bob's answers and sometimes we don't. But this man is fair, honest. His opinions are exactly presented by law and in the direct interest of this municipality. And to go after Mr. McTiernan, his reputation, his credibility on this floor, I think is just wrong. This guy is true blue. He's an honorable man, great family man. He's just there. I mean, you can, if you deal with him, you know it. His answers are his answers, whether you like them or not, yes or no. And I'm a little upset with that. I'll take a beating, no problem. But Mr. McTiernan, I'm going to stand in front of him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Pape.
I got a couple of things to say. The last meeting, I had people in my home. They want to know what's the matter with that man, the way he talks. I said, he'll be all right when the swelling goes down. Don't worry about it.
Mr.
That's
Allen?
all I have to say.
Mr. McLean.
Yes. A couple points. Mr. Harrison raised about the timing, doing this in the May primary rather than the November election. Truth is, November is too late for the fire company to know the answer to this question and still be able to do their construction in January. They would not have time after the November election to put in place all of the funding and the work that will need to be done in order to break ground. So we didn't accidentally pick this time period. We picked it with those plans in mind. I'm going to come back to a question I'm going to ask Mr. McTiernan in a second, but before I do, I want to tell people, don't be fooled by what you're hearing. Every speech that you're hearing be made up here contrary to this proposal, every letter that is being written is being done with the intention of trying to prevent you, the people, from voting on this important issue. Don't be fooled into thinking it is something else. That's what it is. And that's what its aim is, to prevent that. We did not choose this course of action as a way of avoiding some responsibility that we have. And we haven't gone about it haphazardly, and we haven't gone about it without any thought. The 3 years that have been spent on this have all been devoted to coming up with what is the best way for us to make sure we can maintain a volunteer fire company, and what is the best way for us as a municipality to contribute to that effort. And we concluded that the best way to do this, since it is such a fundamental change, is to let the people decide. Let the people decide if they want to continually have 0.34 mils devoted to the facilities that the fire company needs. Right now, that has been properly presented to the county. The county has approved it, and the people will get to vote on it. And there's nothing untoward about this process that we've gone through, and it allows the people to make the decision. There's nothing wrong with that. You got to ask yourself, why would somebody be opposed to that? What is it about letting the people decide that is so wrong? Now, the last thing I just want to come back to is there was a lot of discussion about the effective date of the ordinance. Mr. McTiernan, I know you looked at that issue, and I know you'd like the opportunity to explain to people how you handled that issue in your decision. So you have the floor to explain it.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. And I don't want to be defensive or belabor the point, but Councilman Harrison did ask the opinion and then suggested a written opinion, which Council authorized, and I prepared a 3-page written opinion after researching the law. So I did not make the ruling on the law lightly, And just to briefly summarize it, I think it's very clear under Pennsylvania law that once an ordinance is passed, it shall be delivered to the Department of Elections, and they are required to place it on the ballot. Secondly, an initiating ordinance under Pennsylvania law, and there's a Pennsylvania Supreme Court case, can't be repealed or recalled later on. The council can't then within 30 days say, well, we want to uninitiate what we've done. And those are based on state statutes and court decisions which have precedent, in my opinion, over the Home Rule Charter provision. Moreover, in this case, there's no harm done in this instance, because even if the 30 days passed, it would expire months before the primary election. And finally, you know, I do as thorough a job as I can, and I make the closest, best ruling I can. But this matter was submitted to the Department of Elections. They do review these matters. They don't just rubber stamp what municipalities do. I believe Mr. Harrison's concerns were brought to their attention, and their solicitor and their director issued within 2 days of submission a ruling that the matter would appear on the ballot in the primary election and how the question would be framed. So the county makes its own independent judgment, the elections division, and they took into account the concerns raised by Councilman Harrison, which I know he brought to their attention, as well as council's action, and made the ruling it was appropriate to put it on the ballot. So again, you know, the law is not an exact science, but I do feel in this case there's substantial statutory authority and case law to support what council has done here, in my opinion, as well as the decision of the county elections department.
Thank you, Mr. Karen. Thank you.
Any other comments from council?
Mr. Allen.
Mr. Harrison.
I just want to make one point that these people just absolutely positively bypass the concern. If this council had done their job and passed the ordinance in January, there would be absolutely positively no question. But they passed it in February, and then the solicitor has to rule that, well, guess what, there's state law and cases and all that, so it's okay. I'm not a lawyer, but I will just reiterate, I think it's a disservice to our community. Thank you very much.
Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen.
Mr. Hannon.
As people out there can see, there's the law and then there's Don's law. And as Don said, he wrote this section of the Home Rule Charter. We're treading in his territory, and it's not his intent to have this go this way. So that's why he's very protective of this particular part of the ordinance. And but again, that's why we have a solicitor. That's how we have a practicing attorney that is many years' experience in dealing with municipal matters, and he does a great job for us. You can always agree with him, but he represents what's best for this community. And in his interpretations, we go with it. And in this particular instance, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hannon. We can move on to planning and zoning. We have one resident signed up, Turner. Turner?
Good evening. Just a few comments on the new Millennium construction site. Sorry, I felt I was asleep at the wheel, you may as well say, because I didn't know anything about this happening. And it will, as far as I'm concerned, cause a lot more traffic congestion on Baptist Road. Baptist and Broughton has been bad for so many years, and we had been promised so many years that they were going to fix it. They finally started fixing it, but since fall, there's been no work on the road per se, but it's still bad. Plus the fact they're putting sheets over on the other side now, so it's really, really going to be hard getting out of Horning Road onto 88 even. But as far as the Millennium, the lights also in the field, I'm concerned about that. Last year wasn't too bad, but the year before, I would hate to tell you how many times I had a call and say, you know, officer, how about shutting those lights out? There were times there was snow on the ground, I know darn well nobody's playing in that stuff, and the lights would be on until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I feel in that respect there should be some sort of a something that has to be as part of a person's duty for the night, is like breathing. Okay, time to shut those lights off. And that's going to be a real concern when there's more kids going to be in there too, because they're going to use that as an all night and all day, all day, yeah, that's fine, but as far as that's concerned. And I see that there was no traffic study done, and I kind of think that was amiss. You should have done that to make sure of, okay, how many people are they putting not at risk, but making it more of a problem for getting in and out of the roads. And also, as far as the storm sewers, that would be another concern to me. I would have to see, because there's a lot of things. And then also, the last point would be the trees, the shrubbery, the greenery. Are they going to let them rape the ground like so many people do? And then after that, when it rains, all the debris, the mud and everything just goes into the sewers and everything like that. Or are they going to have them be responsible and make sure that there's plantings and grass and so forth before they even start digging? Thank you.
Thank you. This time, if we can turn to planning and zoning, and Mr. Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one item under planning and zoning tonight, and that is the application for Millennium Woods Consolidation and Subdivision Plan, application number 2012-0903. I move that we approve application number 2012-0903, Millennium Woods Consolidation and Subdivision Plan, Major Subdivision, Baptist Road, Horning Road, and Hilltop Lane, Bove Development Corporation applicant, in accordance with the municipal planner's correspondence dated March 7th, 2013.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve application number 2012-0903, Millennium Woods Consolidation and Subdivision Plan, Major Subdivision, Baptist Road, Horning Road, and Hilltop Lane, Bove Development Corporation, applicant in accordance with the municipal planner's correspondence dated March 7th, 2013. Any comments on this item?
Mr. Allen?
Mr.
We could
McLean.
just ask maybe Mr. Smith sort of quickly, can you respond to some of the residents' comments?
I think probably one of the most important was the stormwater. Currently, the folks on Kevin and Chappelle, they have an issue with runoff from the existing site as it is. When there's so much rain, people do get some water in their backyard. With the construction of the stormwater management facility, that's going to be significantly improved. I mean, that stormwater facility meets the 90% of pre-development for a 2-year. For the remainder, it's under 60%, which is very, very good. Number two, it brings up a good point. Whenever you have construction, there's always the concern about sediment getting into the waterways. It's a real environmental concern. But the safeguard that we have for that is that they have developed an erosion and sediment control plan that has to be approved by the DEP and by the Allegheny County Conservation District. And those are two that are not necessarily real easy to get by. So, and as far as trees, yes, when a development occurs, trees are removed, but they've also provided us with a buffer plan so that in between the existing neighborhoods that we can provide a little bit of greenery, we won't lose all of it. As far as traffic is concerned, typically they did not have, it is our estimation, they're not going to generate enough traffic to require a traffic study. PennDOT did not require them to have a traffic study. Typically, residential developments are low traffic generators. It's not like a Sheetz. It's not like a McDonald's or a Burger King. It's very low. I think we've worked well with Mr. Bove and Mr. Barton. We had some concerns. Residents had some concerns, And with the help of Gene Staller and Jerry Duke, I think we've come up with some good solutions. I think it'll be a good development.
Are you satisfied that the plan as it's currently proposed meets the ordinances?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Mr. Dixon.
Mrs. Turner, if it would help, the plans are available for review. There have been a number of meetings with the Planning and Zoning Commission on this project. We've had residents come to the microphone and speak to those very issues that you addressed, and they have been addressed very thoroughly. So if you would like to look at the plans, they are available. Mr. Smith has a copy of the plans, and if you don't mind, Mike.
No, sir. That's right.
He'd be happy to show them to you to help alleviate any of those concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any other comments? Mr. Spagno, please call the roll.
Pape. Yes. Allen.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
7-0 pass.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Dixon.
Mr. Allen, that is all we have under Planning and Zoning tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. If we can turn to Health, Safety, and Welfare, and Mr. McLean.
Thank you. We have one item on the agenda tonight for Health, Safety, and Welfare. It relates to the permanent status of Sergeant Robert Stiglich. I move that we appoint Sergeant Robert Stiglich, permanent appointment to the rank of Sergeant with the Bethel Park Police Department in accordance with the Police Chief's correspondence dated February 12, 2013.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Sergeant Robert Stiglich, permanent appointment to the rank of Sergeant with the Bethel Park Police Department in accordance with the Police Chief's correspondence dated February 12, 2013. Any comments on this item? Mr. Spagno, please call the roll.
Allen.
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
McLean.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Pape.
Yes.
7-0 pass.
Motion passes 7-0. Mr. McLean.
We have no more agenda items. I do, however, have two additional items.
Mr. McLean.
Thank you. The first is just to make everyone aware that the 2013 Spring Leaf Collection has been scheduled for April 22nd through the 26th. Pursuant to that program, residents can place leaves at the curb on the same day as their regular trash collection. Word of caution, the leaves have to be placed in brown paper leaf bags that are available at local stores or in containers marked leaves. You cannot use plastic bags. If you do, they will not pick them up. You need to have the leaves at the curb by 7 a.m. in order to assure collection. The other item I wanted to mention tonight is, I guess within its context, is hopefully kind of a feel-good story, or at least it's a story about how I think some good things that are done can cause other good things to occur and give birth to other good things. What it relates to is 2 years ago I was at the Memorial Day celebration when, through the efforts of Mark O'Brien and some others, we were adding 2 veterans to the memorial, folks who were from Bethel Park but for whatever reason had been overlooked. And to not make the story too long, that caused me to remember that I had a neighbor growing up, a next-door neighbor, who in fact died in Vietnam, and I noticed that he was not on the memorial. So through some efforts of a lot of people, including folks with the municipality and the Almanac newspaper publishing some articles, and Dick Kraft, who spoke earlier, we were able to identify family members of this neighbor of mine, and his name was Charles Michael Swain. And last Memorial Day, we were able to recognize him, add him to our memorial, and in fact were able through those efforts to find 2 of his sisters and other family members who came, as well as a fellow Marine who served with Charles, and they were actually able to meet each other for the first time. So when I first got started on this, Mark told me, get ready for the ride, and it certainly was. And in fact, when last Memorial Day ended, I thought that was where the ride ended. Well, it turned out that isn't the case. 3 weeks ago, I got an email from a high school senior in Austin, Texas, who explained that in her English class, they read a book called The Things They Carry, which is about Vietnam soldiers. And as part of their project, they are assigned randomly a soldier whose name appears on the Vietnam Wall. Well, she was given Charles Michael Swain.
And so her project is to find out as much information as she can about Charles. She happened through the internet to find one of the articles that was in the almanac and saw that I had been trying to make these efforts to get this information, so she contacted me. And in response to that, I've learned that they do in this English class in Austin, Texas, every year, each student does a full video of as much information as they can find about each person who was killed in Vietnam. So I've been able now to provide to her contacts with Charles' sisters, with the fellow Marine who served with him. I sent to her the videotape of our celebration from last year so that she can see it, and it's now being amassed by her in this project. So it just goes to show you, if this had all been in some different order, this girl in Texas would have been trying to find information about Charles Michael Swaim and not have been able to find any. But sometimes things just work out. So my hope is she's indicated that she will provide to us a copy of her final project, and it'll be a DVD, and we'll be able to add it to our collections, and we'll have this addition to all the sort of good that has come out of these efforts by having someone who we've never met do this work for somebody who was from Bethel Park and served their country. So I just thought that was a story worth sharing.
Thank you, Mr. McClain. Mr. O'Brien.
Just divine intervention. And, it just is amazing how things happen. And on that note, I'd like to make the announcement tonight about our keynote speaker this year and our special guest. He's a great friend of Bethel Park. He's given his heart and his soul to this town. He's given his time, his wisdom, his knowledge, and he's also given his time and efforts and his youth to the U.S. Marines. And I'd like to thank him for all he's done for all of us. And I like to call him friend. And that's Mayor Cliff Morton. This year, we're going to, Bethel Park Veterans Memorial is going to recognize Cliff Morton as our guest speaker in 2013. And he's accepted. So I'm asking Bethel Park to come out and for Memorial Day to remember our servicemen that's given so much, and to come out and celebrate with our friend Cliff Morton. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Just speaking, since we're already through spring into Memorial Day, I wanted to bring up the banner program that we're doing to honor veterans that we will have actually put up on Memorial Day, and they will be taken down on Veterans Day in November. The program, as you've probably seen in Castle Shannon, they have them in West Mifflin, Cannonsburg. We will put the veterans' pictures or their banners all the way down 88, and I just was informed today that South Park has picked up the program, so we'll get this thing all the way to 88 and who knows how far. But I did want to let you know that the end of April is the last day that we can accept banners. There's applications here at the municipal building. There's also applications at the Legion. But I just want to make sure, and if you know anybody that may be interested, because I know when we first put the memorial up, we tried for a couple of years to get as many names as we could. Once we put the memorial up, everyone came out and said, how do I do that? The problem with that is, well, actually not a problem, that at that time we were putting names on in the spring and in the fall. I would hate to see someone go down 88 and see a banner knowing they're going to have to wait a whole 12 months to get their banner up. So I just want to let you know that the deadline for the banners is the end of April. Thank you. If we can move on to Public Works and Maintenance and Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. One item tonight, 2013 road program. I move that we award the 2013 road program contract to A. Felino Construction, Inc. in the amount of $1,184,946.68 in accordance with the Municipal Engineers Correspondence dated February 21st, 2013.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to award the 2013 road program contract to A. Felino Construction, Inc. in the amount of $1,184,946.68 in accordance with the municipal engineer's correspondence dated February 21st, 2013. We have a second?
Second, Johnson.
Okay. Mr. Spadafore, please call the roll.
Dixon,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
McLean,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Pape,
Yes.
Allen.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. O'Brien.
I would just like to commend Gene Statler and our staff. Once again, this is good work. They got their ducks in a row. They got the information out. They got it out for bid. We got good numbers. We got a lot of work for the money that we spent. And these are the things that a good staff does. They realize if you get the numbers and get everything in place early, you can get some good numbers. And I'd like to thank them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
No
O'Brien.
other items, Mr. Allen.
Move adjourned.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good night.
This is Rock 600. Watch BPTV.